Yeah, you're right to sort of say how, despite the fact that obviously we don't know them, it is weirdly like, kind of like a friend kind of dying, which feels a really weird thing to say. And the sort of the emotions around it you feel kind of slightly ridiculous because you're like, I don't technically know this guy. I'm a figure of man. Why am I kind of upset by this? But obviously anything like this where it's out of the blue, initially it kind of doesn't feel real as well. You kind of hear this and you're like, you can't really compute that that's actually happened. And then when you see obviously more and more journalists breaking it and then people reacting to it, kind of almost on like the presence online now, you almost kind of relive it over and over. So you kind of feel extra bad for the friends and family in that regard as well, because they've not only privately got to deal with this, they're going to have to see all this publicly as well. Just obviously ridiculously sad and kind of made you feel throughout. We're going to obviously then segue onto different transfers and stuff, but on the day you were sort of like, kind of like everything kind of else kind of pales into insignificance. And you're kind of thinking, every now and again people were talking about what he was as a player and stuff. And of course you're going to remember that, but also it kind of did all feel a little bit irrelevant when you were kind of talking about it. Certainly when they mentioned about it, obviously him recently being married and having 3 kids or whatever, you're like, doesn't really matter about the football side of things, does it? But also the reaction to it from his like fellow players and stuff kind of tells you a bit about the guy that obviously we don't really ultimately know what they're like behind closed doors, but you can normally get a pretty good vibe. People, when someone passes away, often will come out with what a great guy or whatever, but that stuff in some cases can feel maybe a little bit hollow, like people are saying it because it's what you meant to say. In his case, I think you can kind of see how sincere he is, and some of the messages, I thought Andy Robertson's one in particular, for example, was very much from the heart and pretty sincere. And so you kind of got a picture of the guy that maybe we don't necessarily know, and what obviously a great bloke he was, as well as a great player. So, yeah, kind of shit news to hear, wasn't it?